So today we're doing a deep dive into a career that's, well, defined by this strange mix of huge recognition and, at the same time, total anonymity. We're talking about the voice acting legend Jim Ward, who recently passed away at 66. And for you, listening right now, there is almost no doubt his voice was a soundtrack to some part of your life.
For sure. Whether it was cartoons, video games, even talk radio.
Exactly. So we've gathered the sources that map out this huge, surprisingly versatile career, and our mission here is pretty simple. We want to pull it all together and really get a sense of his contribution to, modern pop culture.
And it's an important mission, I think, because when you have an artist whose work is mainly vocal, someone who's unseen, it's really easy to lose sight of just how foundational they were.
Right.
The sources all confirm Jim Ward was a giant. He was probably best known for his work on Nickelodeon's huge hit, The Fairly Odd Parents. His passing, which is just so sad, came after a long fight with Alzheimer's, and that just adds this layer of tragedy to it all. I mean, losing a man whose entire life was defined by his voice.
That irony is just heartbreaking, isn't it? The very tool that made him famous. But let's start where his voice really became, a staple for a whole generation. You just can't talk about Jim Ward without immediately landing on The Fairly Odd Parents. That show dominated the early 2000s.
Oh, it was massive. And he was right at its comedic core. He voiced a bunch of characters, actually, but there are two that just stand out as these, monuments to his talent.
You have to start with Doug Dimmadome.
Of course. The ridiculously wealthy owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
That voice is unforgettable. You can probably hear it in your head right now, that deep, booming grandiosity, the way he drew out his own name.
Yeah, it's almost operatic, isn't it?
It is.
And that choice, that specific vocal choice, is the key insight. Ward's delivery wasn't just a silly voice. It was a whole character study in this over-the-top, almost old-school villainy mixed with absurd wolf.
The voice itself filled the room.
It did. The sheer volume, the resonance of it, it immediately tells you this guy is larger than life and completely ridiculous. It was just perfect casting, and it shaped the show's whole chaotic sense of humor.
And what's so fascinating, and the sources point this out, is that he could just snap into a totally different character in the same show, in the same recording booth.
Exactly. You contrast Doug Dimmadome with, say, Chet You Betcha, the newsman.
Completely different.
Polar opposites. Chet is fast, he's nasal, a little monotone, and he delivers the most bizarre news reports like he's Walter Cronkite. He's totally unfazed by all the absurdity happening in Dimsdale.
That rapid-fire delivery is the other end of the vocal spectrum from Dimmadome's deep boom.
It really is.
So the lesson here, for you, the learner, is that his success on that show wasn't just about showing up. It was about defining two completely different types of comedy. You had the broad physical humor of Dimmadome's voice.
Right.
And then the sharp, deadpan satire from You Betcha. His work was a pillar of that show's identity.
Absolutely. He set the whole emotional range for the series. But if we stop there, we'd be doing a massive disservice to his career.
Oh, for sure.
The sources all highlight one word: versatility. And this is where things get really interesting. His career was just a masterclass in shifting between completely different types of media.
Okay, so let's move past those main animation roles. He did other big cartoons, of course, like Ben 10 and Chalk Zone.
Yeah.
But the really big leap, I think, is his move into blockbuster gaming. That world requires a completely different approach.
Totally different. It demands total adaptability. You're often recording alone, dealing with these huge nonlinear scripts, and his name is tied to one of the biggest video game franchises out there, Ratchet and Clank.
Captain Quark, the green, egotistical, so-called galactic hero who is, let's be honest, usually a complete coward.
And a hilarious buffoon. And this is where you find a really fascinating analytical nugget. Cartoon acting relies on these broad strokes, right?
Yeah.
Big emotional reaction. But modern video game acting, even for a character as silly as Quark, needs a more grounded emotional realism. He had to record hundreds, maybe thousands of isolated sound clips.
Yeah, they're not just reading a script from start to finish. They're recording every possible grunt, every jump, every reaction to getting hit.
Yeah.
The famous grunt package.
The grunt package, exactly. And he had to maintain Quark's core personality, that pompous, insecure swagger through all of it.
It's an incredible technical challenge.
It is. The sources show that Quark's performance required Ward to blend this, like classic superhero gravitas with perfectly timed comedic stumbling. It's the sound of a man who thinks he's a titan, but often sounds like he's about to trip over his own feet.
So that reach into AAA gaming, it shows this powerful bridge between animation and high-end interactive entertainment.
A huge leap.
But even that doesn't capture the whole picture, does it? The thing that's genuinely surprising, especially if you only know him from cartoons, is his work in live talk radio.
This is such a remarkable chapter. Jim Ward was the announcer and sometimes a co-host on the Stephanie Miller Show, which is a really popular progressive talk program.
I mean, just think about that. You take the specialized timing you've perfected in a cartoon studio, and you suddenly have to apply it to unscripted, live political commentary.
The safety net is just gone.
He went from voicing a fictional character with a 10-gallon hat to providing daily, live comedic relief on a national political show. The muscle memory for that kind of transition must have been immense.
It really was. On the radio, he was known for his impressions, political figures, celebrities, just that generic booming announcer guy. And his ad-libs were so quick. He became a fan favorite because his humor wasn't canned. It was immediate. It was responsive.
The sources say he added a unique dynamic to the show. It wasn't just him reading a script, it was a full performance, integrated into the live conversation.
Yeah, and it shows this deep well of comedic resourcefulness. He was connecting with this entirely different adult demographic who probably had no idea he was also the voice of Captain Quark.
It's the ultimate test of a voice performer, isn't it?
I think so. Can you go from scripted, exaggerated characters to nuanced, immediate, politically charged humor that needs perfect timing to work? Ward proved he could day after day for years. He made his voice part of people's daily commute.
That really paints a picture of an artist whose influence was just so broad and deeply woven into our culture. Now, shifting gears a bit, the sources also give us some really poignant personal context around his final years.
Yeah, this brings us to the circumstances of his passing. The news was first shared by Stephanie Miller on X. She was relaying a message she'd gotten directly from his wife, Janice Ward.
That personal connection coming through a colleague, it really shows the deep professional family he built around him.
It does, and the language Janice Ward used to describe him is just incredibly powerful. She called him their voice deity.
Voice deity, wow.
What a phrase, right? It's so specific, so resonant. It just captures how central and powerful his voice was, not just to us, but to his most intimate circle. It says so much about the reverence he inspired.
And we know he stepped away from public life after his Alzheimer's diagnosis. This is where we have to pause and just think about the profound cruelty of his final battle.
Think about it. This is a man who built entire identities for others, Dimmadome, Quark, Chet You Betcha, with nothing but the instrument of his voice. His whole career was built on articulation and vocal control.
And then to face a disease that's defined by the gradual, cruel erosion of exactly those functions.
It's just immensely tragic. His wife, Janice, she shared updates with the community as he battled the disease, which I think was a real gift to his fans and colleagues.
It sounds like it was a long, difficult struggle, but also one where the community he helped build through his work, they gave back to him.
Absolutely. The sources note that colleagues and fans really rallied around the family. The warmth and connection he generated, even through his anonymity, it translated into real support when he couldn't perform anymore. It says a lot about the man behind the microphone.
So if we pull all this together, if we synthesize this entire deep dive, from the ridiculous heights of Doug Dimmadone's hat to the grounded humor of a live radio show, what is the enduring legacy of Jim Ward?
I think the overarching legacy is that paradox you mentioned earlier, foundational anonymity. His work defined so many iconic characters. His voice was this constant, versatile presence for generations.
Whether you were 7 years old watching Nickelodeon or 40 playing a video game.
Exactly. His ability to just seamlessly jump between these comedic styles, these different technical demands, that's what made him indispensable.
So he wasn't just a voice actor, he was a multi-platform performance architect. His voice became part of our shared cultural memory, but most people would never recognize his face.
That's it perfectly. His passing is the loss of a truly versatile performer whose voice is just woven so deeply into the cultural fabric. Fans and colleagues are mourning, but they're also celebrating his talent and humor. The work endures.
And according to the sources, no details about a memorial have been released yet. So let's just recap the core pillars of his legacy that we've unpacked for you. First, his foundational career-defining roles in The Fairly Odd Parents, showing that masterful command of Doug Dimmadome and Chet You Betcha.
The two extremes.
Right. Second, that astounding versatility. He moves from the cartoon booth to AAA gaming with Captain Quark, and then to the high-stakes, unscripted world of live talk radio.
A career that was both deep and incredibly broad.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to carry forward. Just think about the power of the anonymous voice. Jim Ward's face was unseen by almost everyone who loved his work. Yet his voice shaped the cultural experience for generations of kids, gamers, and radio listeners. He left this indelible mark on our memory, connecting people through humor, even as his final tragic battle with Alzheimer's took away the very instrument of his success. So consider this. How many other unseen artists working anonymously behind microphones or screens are fundamentally shaping the stories, the humor, and the shared cultural understanding of the world around you right now? That is the silent but incredibly powerful legacy of Jim Ward.